Hello everyone, Matt from Model Minutes here and welcome back to the workbench for another unboxing. Today I'm taking a look at this, the Bf109G-4 in 1/48 scale from Eduard. So join me as I get stuck inside this box and see what this kit is like. So starting off on the front, you can see this very nice artwork with this aircraft. I think it's the Romanian one with, its yellow markations in combat with enemy aircraft. It says it's Profipack edition, so that means that this is going to have accessories included as part of the package. There are the weekend editions as well, which don't come with those, but they are a little bit cheaper. This thin edge over here has the product code of 82117. We have contact details for Eduard, and we have some information about what is included in the kit. So it says that there are plastic parts for 1 model, decals for 5 options. We have Photoetch parts and die-cut masks. Let us have a look on the other edge. And this has the different marking schemes which are included. You can see we've got a good selection of different camouflage ones. We've got a desert one. We've got I think that's Italian and a Romanian one as well. So we've got a nice selection of different topics there. The sort of shelf edges just feature the same information we've already seen, but there was nothing on the rear of the box. So I'm just going to get this open. It's quite a big box and it's quite tight, so bear with me. There we go. Bit of empty space inside the box, so things could move around. They probably could have used a slightly smaller box to make it a little bit more secure, but hopefully nothing will be damaged. As usual, let's start by taking a look at the instructions. We have a glossy A4 booklet. Front page has lots of information about the Bf109. And then if we turn over the page, we have some assembly instructions. We have a sprue map, which is always handy to have, and our paint color callouts down the bottom. We then enter into our assembly stages. And you can see we're starting off with our cockpit parts. We have small plastic parts, we have Photoetch and paint color callouts as we go through. We've got seat belts and other elements like that. So we're going to build up our cockpit interior area, and still there's quite a bit of, of stuff to do here. So it's fairly involved, fairly detailed, and we have a tail wheel to go in, and then we can start sandwiching that between the two fuselage halves. We do have different options of engine exhausts depending on the version you want to do, so make sure you check your version. And then we come on to here. I think these are shrouds for our engine exhausts, so again, check those. We have optional air intakes and filters, again, depending on which version you're doing. And then we come on to the tail surfaces. After this, we turn over the page and we start focusing on the wings. Internally, we have to add some stuff to make up our landing gear bays. Depending on the different version you're doing, there are holes or things to drill out, and then we add the wing surfaces together. We then join our fuselage and wings together. And it appears that here we've got like a stencil that we need to apply over the top and actually scribe in some detail, which I may or may not do depending on how I feel. Next page, we have our leading edge slats and our ailerons being added. We also flip the aircraft over and then add the air radiators and the air intakes, and there's Photoetch parts which go in here as well. Turn over the page again, and then we can add our flaps, and they can be raised or lowered, I presume, but it doesn't specifically say that they can be raised, but I think to raise them you would only have to remove the mounts and then just install them like level, so I don't think that would be too difficult to do, but it doesn't specifically say that. Landing gear gets built up in a fairly typical manner, wheels having hubs that are separate, and you join them onto the legs and the doors, and then they get installed. Again, no option for raised landing gear here, but I think with some modification you could just glue it into the landing gear bay if you wanted to do so. Of course, there's no pilot figure, so no pilot figure means you would have to source your own one. We have a reflector gun sight. There is a crank for the engine if you would like to add it. And then we come on to our clear parts for our cockpit canopy. Small details can go in there, like I believe this was a armor plate. And there's like little handles and stuff, so we add all of those things together. It appears that we do have the option to have our canopy open if you would like to do so. Might be nice given the larger size of the aircraft, and also we build up our propeller and spinner. It would appear that there's no option to have the propeller freely rotate, so it would just be kind of pressed into it or glued into it. I imagine it would freely rotate if you don't glue it in, but it will just fall out again. Flipping over, final step then, we have the option to install underside fuel tank or external guns, but I imagine those gun pods would only be used for certain versions, depending on which one you want to do. And then we have the masking sheet instructions here, telling you where to put the different bits for your masks. And it appears that we also have inner and outer masks, which is quite nice. I don't tend to do inner and outer masking. I normally just do one side, but actually I might give it a go on this one. I did do it on my Sea Fury and it does look quite good. Then we're on to our full colour painting instructions. So what we've got here is the Romanian aircraft, and this is the one I want to do. I want to do this one because I do a lot of German aircraft and I think it would be nice to do it in a slightly different scheme. You can see that it pretty much is in a normal Luftwaffe kind of paint scheme, but they've overpainted some areas with Romanian insignia. And that's the one I really like the look of. It was either going to be this one or the sort of tropical desert Mediterranean kind of one. The one after that is that desert tropical kind of one. I do like the look of this one, but I kind of have my heart set on the Romanian one. We also have a Luftwaffe one from 1943 here with yellow tips to the wings and underside of the nose. We have a Italian one which has a similar paint scheme once again, but you can see they've overpainted with camouflage the German insignia and then put their own ones on. And then we have another Luftwaffe one, but again slightly more interesting because the insignia has elements which have been overpainted once again. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Stenciling information is here, and you can see that we have got a wiring diagram as well for our aerial mast. So yeah, pretty comprehensive instructions, really good and easy to follow. After this, we can look at the accessories. I normally like to look at the decals at this point. So we'll have a look at the decal sheet. And we have one sheet of stencils. Bf109G stencils, it says there. There is a copyright date of 2014. I don't think this was manufactured in 2014. I think this is a more recent reproduction, but that's when the copyright date's from. And you can see that the printing is generally okay. I believe these decals may have the Eduard film, which can be removed using white spirit after application. I don't necessarily think that's designed into the decals, but it is something that can be done to them. So I will have to investigate. We've got a good selection here. These are all kind of just generic ones for the Bf109, so you would have to check your instructions. The fine text is reasonably legible. The colours are pretty good. Maybe not as saturated in some areas as they could be, but, you know, perfectly acceptable. The main decals then for our paint schemes. Oh, let's peel that off. We have a good selection. We've got our Romanian ones over here, which are the ones I'm going to need. We have our control panel, if you want to use the decal for it. We have different insignia and numbers. Yeah, they seem to be printed pretty nicely. Perhaps not as saturated again as other brands could have, and there does seem to be quite a bit of excess decal film around the outside of the transfers, but the printing for the most part is quite good. We have two-part historical emblems if you like to use them, and our other insignia are here. So you do actually get a nice selection. You can save these, and if you wanted to get some of their overtrees or extra sprues, you could almost do another version from this if you wanted to, which is what I might consider doing in the future because I'll definitely have spares left over. But yeah, decals for the most part look okay. Hopefully no issues when I come to apply them. I may have to investigate to see if those if that film is removable. Because this was a Profipack version, we also have the Photoetch included. I'm pretty sure this is stainless steel because it's in a silvery kind of colour. A little bit difficult to remove it from the bag. So we have a moderately sized piece, and you can see that it is printed in colour. So we've got control panel components if you want to use them, which look pretty nice. Seat belts, radiator sort of grills and things. Yeah, it's a pretty nice little sheet. We've got little control wires and things there too. Nothing printed on this side, But yeah, that's nice. It's a nice little addition, isn't it, to have Photoetch? You don't obviously have to use it, and this kit has other versions out there where you don't need the Photoetch in order to build it, so you wouldn't have to. But seeing as if you've spent the money and it's included, it might be worth using a couple bits. If you don't use it all, at least use a couple of the main ones, which will make the details look a little bit nicer, is my thought anyway. Like the grills, as an example, could be an easy way of improving the look of the kit. After that, we have our included canopy masks. So even if I'd got the weekend edition, I probably would have bought the masks as well. But then by buying the masks, you've effectively pushed the price up to the point where you might as well just got the Profipack. So these are on the yellow tape. I do like the yellow tape. I think it's pretty good quality. And these are either die cut or like silhouette cutter using a machine. And they are generally fine. I don't ever have any problems applying Eduard masks. So I expect they'll work absolutely fine. I hope the camera is able to see the lines on there. But yeah, not bad. Eduard normally designs in different options into their kits, so we may see parts which we don't need, but are present because it might represent a different version. I'm doing the Bf109G-4, but there might be parts for the F or the G6 version, etc. So there might be different parts molded onto here, which we don't need. Plastic parts then are pretty nice. There is only a hint of flash in a few little places, but the level of detail is nice. There's little rivet details in places. The parts are pretty much crystal clear. Perhaps there is a little bit of a waviness to the plastic in a few places, but not really anything that detracts from the look of the plastic parts. Framework is relatively proud, so it should make placing those masks fairly easy. Yeah, clear parts look really nice. This is the thing with Eduard, they do make very nice looking kits. Cool. So yeah, that's that one. In this bag we have what appears to be our fuselage and wing components. So as I mentioned, they tend to design in lots of options for their kits. So in this case, this would be the ones that we specifically need for ours. I imagine that there are other wings and fuselage for other versions that are out there, and they just sort of swap them in and out based on what they want to release. This one has our upper and lower wing surfaces, and you can see that we have a really nice level of riveted detail on there. The plastic is in a bluey grey kind of colour. It's relatively dense, doesn't feel particularly greasy. You can see flow marks in the plastic from where it has been injected, but that it won't be noticeable at all after a lick of paint. The lower wing surfaces are the same kind of deal. Nice fine rivet detail, some raised and recessed elements as well. Not anything really in the way of flash. Ejector pin marks are on this side, but in non-visible locations, which is good. And you can see we even have some detail for our landing gear bay areas too, which is good. And then our fuselage, both halves come on this one. We have the left side here. There is a bit of a scuff on the plastic there, but I imagine that won't be seen after a bit of painting. Once again, the level of detail is very impressive. We've got raised and recessed rivets, panel lining, smaller details, very nice. The other fuselage half is basically the same kind of deal, only a hint of flash in a few places. Internally there is some detail on the walls as well, which is good. Ejector pins are in non-visible areas. We have some tail surfaces which have it's almost like a bit of a stressed effect to them. We have the upper cowling components based on which version we're doing. So yeah, looking pretty impressive straight off the bat. Perhaps a tiny little bit of flash in a few places which might just need a bit of cleaning up. Sprue gates are not massively chunky, but we'll just have to be a bit careful when removing the parts. This brings us on to the final bag, which holds our remaining 2 sprues. So technically we have 4 sprues of main plastic parts plus 1 in clear. The only thing that has happened is in this bag you can see that one of the sort of sprue gate things has fallen away. Hopefully doesn't affect any of the parts. Right, so this sprue has lots of different propeller options based on the version you want to do. It also appears to have like a bomb mount, but I don't think we needed bombs. So this is my point about how Eduard build in different versions to their kits. Landing gear legs, control panels. If you didn't want to use the Photoetch one, that looks pretty decent anyway. Cockpit tub, landing gear legs, smaller details are very nicely reproduced. See, like the details on those parts there are pretty good. Tires, lots of different choices there. Tires have different treads, and I think there's even like logos on the outer rims. Spinner, external fuel tank. This looks like part of a bomb. These are smaller bombs, which we don't need for our version. Ejector pins appear to be on this side, but not on any visible surfaces, which is good. So yeah, it's a very nice looking kit. Not much in the way of flash. There is a little bit of flash in a few places, which needs cleaning up, but for the most part, this is fairly crisp. This brings us on to the final sprue, and on here, this is the rear side where all the ejector pins would be, but they don't seem to be particularly visible. We have engine exhausts. These ones have their shrouds over the top. We have drop tank or centerline fuel tank. We have air radiators, intakes, flaps. I think that's part of the gun pod, perhaps. Air intakes there. Elements of our tail. Some of the smaller parts, I think these might be the gun barrels for those gun pods. They look pretty nicely reproduced. Machine gun parts here. Yeah, this is looking very nice, isn't it? It doesn't look like massively complicated, but it does have a good balance of parts, detail, and photo etch, etc. I think the most difficult part for me is probably going to be painting, because mottling can be a right struggle sometimes, I find. And even though I'm doing the remaining one, there is still mottling to do. So yeah, let's round this one up. We had 1, 2, 3, 4 bluey grey plastic sprues featuring a really nice level of detail, not much in the way of the flash, maybe a few little scuffs in places, but for the most part a very impressive looking model. We had 1 clear sprue containing some very crisply moulded clear parts as well, 1 sheet of masks which appear to be to the normal standard from Eduard and are normally pretty good. We had 1 set of photo etch containing quite a lot of little details and things which come pre-coloured, which makes it much easier to use. We had a set of decal stencils, which appear to be quite usable, and then a larger sheet containing all of our main transfers. Perhaps the decal film is a bit large around the outside, perhaps the printing is not as saturated as it could be, but looks perfectly acceptable, and you do get enough other decals if you wanted to get some more sprues to do other versions as well without having to actually buy a full kit again. The instructions come in a nice glossy booklet which seem to be relatively easy to follow. There's a good wealth of information, and the painting and decal placement instructions are printed in full colour, which is what we love to see. All of that comes contained within this rather lovely illustrated box with the version that I want to do on the box. So talking a little bit about the age of this kit, it does seem to be quite up to modern standards. It doesn't seem to have anything really that detracts from that. Perhaps a few of the little scuffs and things in places lend itself to being a kit which has had quite a few production runs, and I would say that from the information on Scalemates that would be correct. It does seem to have had a lot of production runs, but again, as I mentioned, this does have the option to have different versions produced from it, like I think there might be elements for like the E or the F, etc. that could be created. So as far as I can tell, this is actually a 2017 tooling, but I think the version that I've got here is actually a 2023 release because it does have a 2023 copyright on the box. But from what Scalemates seems to think is that the majority of the parts of this are dating from a 2017 tooling. But if that's the case, it's nearly 10 years old and it still looks very impressive. So for what we've seen inside of the box, how much would you be expecting to part with? Well, at the moment on the Eduard websites, when I'm making this, it was retailing for £19.36, but that was on sale. The normal recommended retail price is £29.38 with conversion. So let's call that about £30. I don't think that's too bad. I think that's a fairly good price for a 1/48 scale model kit, which comes with all the accessories that we've seen here, a good level of detail, nicely crisply molded, a good selection of paint schemes. That does seem to be a very competitive price, but if you can get it even cheaper at the reduced price, then that's an even better deal. I think I paid about £25 for this one. So, no complaints from me whatsoever with this particular model kit, other than the fact that the modelling may be a little bit complicated and may test my modelling skills. And with that, I think I'm going to wrap this one up here. It seems to be a very impressive model, which retails for a very competitive price. Despite being a slightly older design, supposedly, I still think it's very competitive in today's modelling market. But what do you think of this kit? Let me know in the comments below, and if my assessment of this kit was fair. Don't forget that we do have a Model Minutes Model Club, and if you'd like to join the Model Club and get exclusive access to videos and other perks, check out the links below the video. Massive thanks to these guys on screen for the extra support they give me, allowing me to create consistent content. There are other ways to help support the channel if you'd prefer, but the best way to support the channel for free is by subscribing with notifications turned on so you never miss a modelling upload. Finally though, last thing to say is a massive thank you to you for watching this one, and I'll see you on the workbench again next time.